Okay, Ben. In this tute, we're going to look at topic 16 from the second study guide, and that is Christian Western Europe during the Middle Ages. Okay? So, in this, we're going to be looking at how Europe changed after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, both politically and socially. And we'll look at the development of Christianity and as well as the expansion of European states and people. Okay, so I guess the what we'll be focusing on is the establishment of regional states in Western Europe, particularly France, Germany, and England. The main features of medieval society, feudalism and such, economic growth that occurred in this period, uh, the Christianity that evolved, of course, during the medieval period, the Crusades is a big part, and the expansion of medieval Europe. First off, what do we mean by Western Europe? So, Western Europe encompasses pretty much this whole part of Europe here. Uh, Here, we say this is kind of Central Europe, and Poland, Hungary, uh, that's getting into Eastern Europe. So, yeah, it's kind of divided into those three blocks. So, Western Europe encompasses we there's sometimes some controversy whether it encompasses Germany or Italy. That's sometimes called Central Europe, but it definitely encompasses Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, the United Kingdom, Ireland, and Iceland. Those are all Western Europe countries, and sometimes we include Germany, Italy, Switzerland, and Austria. Okay, so during the early Middle Ages, the period we're talking about is from about 500 AD to 1000 AD. Western Europe was a violent and disorderly land. Okay, it was a train wreck. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire and invasions by people pretty much wrecked European society and wrecked the economy. Um, there were some empires, like for example the Carolingian Empire, that was ruled by Charlemagne, provided Europe with stability for a short amount of time, but it was wrecked in 843, and yeah, as a result, turmoil and just violence and disarray plagued Europe for pretty much the whole period from about 500 AD to 1000 AD. Yeah, and therefore Western Europe played very, very small roles in the development of, a stable economy, and it was other places that had the advantage, had the economic advantage and the political advantage that this at this time. For example, the Byzantine empires were doing very well. So, yeah, main points though. Western Europe, violent mess, very poor economy, disorderly, and the only, I guess, stable empire that existed for a while was the German Karo Lingian Empire. However, in this period, there were some foundations that were planting the seeds, I guess, for a more prosperous society. For example, regional states, they began to have sort of a little bit more political stability as the Middle Ages went on. Uh, New tools and technologies were invented. Now, these tools and technologies led to an increase in agricultural production and therefore economic growth as the time went on. This led to population growth. In addition, the Western Christian Church brought cultural and religious unity to most of Europe. So, Christianity. Um, yeah, so these seeds that were planted meant that from about 1000 to 1300 AD was known as the High Middle Ages because the foundations that were laid previously meant Europeans were able to build vibrant and powerful societies in this period. So 1300 AD equals High Middle Ages. So this led to sort of ideas of making one European empire, but this never really happened. So instead, local rulers they organized powerful regional states. Okay, in this period, High Middle Ages, powerful regional states. So increased agricultural production fueled rapid population growth. Economic expansion led to increased long distance trade, which made cities richer and helped create new towns. So the High Middle Ages, as you can probably ascertain, was a time of prosperity. So economic growth, demographic increase pushed Europeans once again into the larger world. European merchants they began to participate directly in in the commerce of other states in the Eastern Hemisphere, China and such. Um, there was Christian expansion into Muslim lands, such as in the Mediterranean and in Spain, and European forces um, they mounted what was known as the military crusades that sought to recapture Palestine from and Jerusalem, where modern day Israel is, from Muslim control. So these efforts they clearly demonstrated that um, European society was once again beginning to play a much larger role in and sort of like become a phoenix from the ashes of the previous 500 years. And of course, this would lead to eventual European domination of the world, which we've seen. Okay, so in 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire finally fell after a series of invasions. And the invaders, they organized a series of German kingdoms as successor states in place of this empire. So from the 5th through to the 8th centuries, continuing invasions and conflicts left Western Europe in shambles, as I said before. And a major problem was that none of the German people had the resources or political or social organization to dominate everyone else and establish a dominance throughout Western Europe. But in the 9th century, one of the groups, the Franks, became the most powerful of the German people. So this um, Frankish realm um, did well because of strong military leadership, and it also had the support of the popes in Rome, who appreciated the Franks' conversion to Roman Christianity. But anyway, it reached its high, this realm, the Frankish realm, during the reign of Charlemagne, also known as Charles the Great. He ruled from 768 to 1814 and was really good at building the Carolingian Empire. He was part of the Carolingian family, so he built their empire up, which was largely just down to him. So he was pretty illiterate, but he was extremely intelligent, and he managed to maintain diplomatic relations with a lot of other big empires outside of Europe, such as the Byzantine Empire. So, um, when Charlemagne inherited the Frankish throne, uh, his realm included most of modern France, as well as Belgium, Netherlands, and southwestern Germany. And by the time he had finished, he had extended his realm, his authority over, to much of Spain and Bavaria and northern Germany and Italy, and as far as Rome. I'll show you this here. This is the Carolingian Empire under Charlemagne's reign. We have the capital in Aachen, which is currently in modern day Germany. So this was the court and capital. But Charlemagne himself, he actually spent most of his reign traveling throughout his kingdom, throughout his empire. Sorry. But yeah, so in his absence, because he was traveling lots, he relied on his deputies, who held political, military, and judicial authority through his jurisdictions. Um, and yeah, he also instituted a group of imperial officials known as Missi Dominici, or envoys of the Lord Ruler, and they travelled annually to review accounts of all local authorities. So he managed to keep checks and balances and maintain his authority, is pretty much what I'm saying there. So he worked extremely hard and managed to build the Frankish kingdom into an empire, I guess. Empire meaning that he had a bunch of different lands. He hesitated to call himself an emperor though, but yeah, Charlemagne he did accept the title when Pope Leo III publicly recognized his accomplishments by proclaiming him emperor on Christmas Day, actually. So as you can see, there's a huge influence in Christianity. in the periods that we're talking about in Charlemagne and such. So after his death in 814 AD, Charlemagne, his empire didn't last long. It shows, how dedicated and how hard he worked to keep it together. So it was both internal disunity and external invasion brought the Carolingian Empire and the Carolingian family empire to an early end. So by 843, his three grandsons were fighting really bitterly between themselves for the title of emperor, but they decided that they'd solve the problem by dividing the empire into three kingdoms. There were Muslim invaders from the north, from the south, sorry, because there were Muslims in Spain at this point. Hungarian invaders from the east, and Viking invaders from Scandinavia in the north, and they were all contributing to the massive instability in the region, and pretty much caused the destruction of the empire. So invasions and disunity. Okay, so after the fall of the Carolingian Empire, local authorities took responsibility for providing order in their own regions, rather than it being, like a big empire that was joined together under Charlemagne. But eventually there were larger states that were built, and Otto of Saxony, OTTO of Saxony, he was particularly aggressive, and he eventually, due to appreciation of his aid to the church, was proclaimed Otto the Emperor in 1962 by Pope John the 12th, and this led to the foundation of the Holy Roman Empire, which you can see there in the middle. So this was the next big empire in Western Europe, or Western and Central Europe. So one thing that you might notice from this picture, this is showing the rough European borders between 1000 and 1300 AD. So in the period of prosperity that we talked about, where larger states formed, the states are quite big, aren't they? For, limited communication and, limited transportation. There are quite large states with, quite sizable empires. I find that kind of interesting, considering the communication and transportation deficits of the time. In regards to the Holy Roman Empire, there was some tension between the emperors and the popes in Italy. The popes actually crowned the emperors at this time, but when the popes were afraid of the increase in power that the emperors got, they would form alliances with other states in Europe to try and sort of provide checks and balances on the Holy Roman Empire's authority. Voltaire was a 18th century French writer, and he once quipped that the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. Instead, it was a regional state that ruled Germany and occasionally sought to wield influence in Eastern Europe and Italy.